Hello and welcome to another episode of Shampoo and Booze. This is episode number 8 at shampooandbooze.com. So I thought today something we've been talking about amongst ourselves has been competition and how we see competition in our area. We live in a rural area, but it is a place where people come to go on vacation, and it has been for about 20 or 30 years. So there's a lot of competition, but it's not as much as like a place like DC or New York.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to first, it's mentioned, there's all these articles going on right now because Airbnb in San Francisco, they're trying to fight this new law that the city is trying to pass. I don't quite understand the ins and outs of it, but, the gist of it is like in places like San Francisco or in it's New York, it's pretty clear that the people using Airbnb who are renting apartments are not just regular people. It's mainly businesses who are creating a hotel.
Essentially a hotel, yeah.
With rooms spread out across a city. And they're getting past having to pay taxes. And even worse, in these cities where there aren't a lot of available space for regular people to live. They're taking inventory off the market.
Right, so regular people can't find apartments for a reasonable price as easy.
So, I only say that about competition because it is, when we talk about it, we live in a rural area. It's in a vacation spot.
Yeah.
People have been renting cabins here since the 80s.
Yeah,
probably,
80s, about the 80s.
And, and there's a established a system of getting like a business license, and we all pay taxes, a TOT tax, transportation, and
it's something like that. Transient is a transient tax. It's basically a hotel. It's essentially a hotel tax.
And there's plenty of places for people to live here. Our town would love for more people to move here.
Now, just to give you a perspective of the numbers, our entire county has 25,000 people. In the town that we live in, we live outside of town, but that town has about 5,000 people in it. So that's the size that we're talking about.
Right. So, competition is going to be different between a city and a rural area. But, anyway, I just wanted to first
it's good to preface that.
But so in our county, in our small little rural county, there's about 300 cabins.
Right.
I've heard that there's about 500.
Really? I don't know the exact number.
But I don't know how many of those are active. And again, a lot of these were started by basically baby boomers.
Yeah.
They bought cheap country property back in the 80s.
Right.
They put a little cabin on it, and they're basically absentee landlords.
Yeah.
And they will use their local services.
There's an agency that will rent places out. So, like you're saying, a lot of people don't live here. They run it, but they're not here. It's their weekend home from the 80s, and they just rent it out when they're not there.
Right.
There are people like us who run it, who live here as well. So they're not absentee. But so there's a mixture of, people who do that stuff.
But, going back to what I was saying about, it is in, San Francisco, where most of the business happening on Airbnb is run by, a company that owns these places. And it's kind of true here, too. Most of the people that have cabins here are not just renting out rooms in their homes.
Right.
Most of it is people like us who are running these cabins like it's a business.
It's a business, yeah.
And so I think it would be healthy if everyone just started to understand that's basically what Airbnb is. It's really just another way to rent from a business that has a place to rent.
I think it started out as someone renting a room in their apartment, for short term, people traveling.
Sure.
But it's gotten so much bigger than that, because it's a really good system.
Right. We know someone in it's New York, which we won't say who it is, who actually, he has his own apartment. He actually rented a second apartment.
Yeah.
Purposely to start an Airbnb
rental business.
And he somehow, I don't know, kind of under the table made sure that the owner of the building wouldn't harass him if he was renting.
And he's still renting. That was over a year ago when he started.
So those things that people say are true. That's that's a good example of a piece of affordable property being taken off the market so someone could live there, just so basically tourists would have a place to go and stay.
Yep, for cheap.
Cheaper than a hotel.
Yeah. I will say this, though. I do love Airbnb in New York because hotels in New York are, notoriously expensive, small, and a lot of them are really dirty. Right. So it's kind of like, I love Airbnb in New York personally. Yeah. I think it's a great thing. But
and like when we stayed in Amsterdam, we stayed there for 3 weeks and we rented 2 different apartments.
Right.
And that was, I think, what Airbnb was originally intended to be. These were, apartments that people rented, but they were going on vacation. And they were just renting their apartments while they were gone.
Right. To pay for their trip, essentially.
One apartment we stayed at, that was the first time they had ever rented on Airbnb, so they were very it's nervous about people staying in their house.
I think both of them were actually. Yeah.
How do you want
so just to bring it back to our county, I mean, we're seeing part of it, the reason why we started our rental was we saw a lot of these like old hunting cabins that are halfway run by people. We don't think they're great. We've actually had relatives stay in cabins and just been like, oh my god, this is what's being rented.
They're just really bare bones.
Bare bones.
They're in a beautiful part of the country.
Yeah, gorgeous.
So you have that. It's just a rustic, and that just means like very kind of like old furniture.
Yeah, but rustic in a bad way. Right. Like rustic in a cheap way.
A silverware, just
stuff from the thrift store.
It's like someone goes to a thrift store and just grabs a bunch of silverware, different pots and pans. It's a kind of place that maybe when you were from up on the East Coast,
like
in
the
Boston,
Cape Cod,
a place where they expected you to bring sheets,
and stuff like that,
blankets.
So that being said, we're seeing a change. Like when we started, we're starting to see a change where there's similar people to us trying to do a nicer experience for people, and a boutique hotel just opened up on Main Street.
Right.
So the reason I'm talking about this is for our little town and our little county, we really want these other people to succeed because we want it to be a place where young people, stylish people come. But it's difficult because this boutique hotel, for example, is our direct competition. Their prices are similar to us. Their style is similar to us. So to me, it's difficult to want people to succeed, but also feel competitive, without trying to be mean. So I think that's why I brought this subject up because I see that competition, like this boutique hotel, like every little, bit about them, I'm picking apart every single detail about them, but I still want them to succeed. So it's a weird, Yeah,
I don't think one's better than the other. I mean, I think competition's good because it makes us feed off each other.
Yeah.
Everyone's improving, hopefully, the quality.
Right.
Right. For us, we've found that our place is priced probably higher than 90% of other cabins in our area based on how many people we can handle.
Right.
Like the kind of prices we charge are the same, we can hold 6 people at a certain price, and other people can hold 10 people at our price.
Right.
But people will pay more because our place is nicer.
So something I noticed was, and I do want to talk about that hotel again real quick, but something I did notice once we put our place on Airbnb was that people who were direct competition to us, who can house about the same amount of people, started raising their prices as well, which I actually thought was good because that means that the median rate for a certain thing goes up, and that doesn't make us look priced higher than it's like we're in a similar price range. So that made me feel better. Like they were at $150, $160 a night on certain nights, and we were $199. Like we just started out that high in the beginning. So it was cool because one of these people that's on Airbnb that I call my arch nemesis because she's has a million reviews and she's
probably the closest to our
similar.
Yeah.
a similar listing. Although she's up on the mountain, she has this like amazing like panorama view. But she brought her nightly price up to $190 for like weeknights. So I'm like, okay, that's good, because I want people to be like, that's how much it costs, you know. So in that respect, competition is good.
It is good. I mean, you know, and yeah, there's like, you know, it's that paradox, like, I want people to only rent our place.
Yeah.
And I don't want other renters around here to, like, you know, steal our whatever competition.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's a silly way to think about it, because I actually want everyone around here, I want their quality to improve. I want their prices to raise. And actually, I think it helps everyone, because then this area will get a reputation for nicer quality. You know, you can go to, you know, our county, and like you'll have a great experience. It's not just crappy little hunting cabins. It's actually really nice
places. And you want people, because we live near Washington, D.C., so a lot of the people that rent are like weekenders, or if they have a flexible schedule, they'll come out for 2 nights, weeknights. That happens frequently. So you want those kind of people to be coming to your area. I want them at my house, but I want them, if it's booked on our arch nemesis, I want them to check us, you know, and you know, whatever.
Right, and you know, and that's the other thing too. We have to remember that, you know, like there might be, it's 50 to 100 people who are renting in our county on a weekend.
Right.
So no one can get all of that. We can only book one
set of
family
people
at a time, you know. So our company, you know, they can only, you know, rent one family at a time too. So, you know, it's not like we're fighting over one person every weekend.
And there's some times where like right now, the fall has started, and so that's generally the time when, you know, cabin rentals are slowing down. But the good thing is we check other people's calendars, like through Airbnb and HomeAway, and I like to do that because I like to see, okay, theirs are slowing down too. You know, they're just having people on weekends just like us. Or,
I mean, I love the transparency of how a lot of this online stuff works. I mean, we've talked about it before. We also sell on eBay, and we love eBay because you can check sold
other people's
its prices.
Items,
so I can have an item. I'm going to put it on eBay to sell it. I can just check how much people buy the item for, and it shows me a history. That's great. And it's the same thing on Airbnb and a lot of these other sites. You can see other cabins. It's like you said, their schedule. And since we're still it's new to this, we always check them just to see, are we doing worse or better? You know, it seems kind of slow. Oh, it's slow everywhere.
Yeah.
This just
it's
must
not just
be
us.
what these seasons.
There was one, we were like fully booked in September, except these like 3 days. And I thought, that's so weird. I don't know what's up with those 3 days. And I checked like everyone else's calendars. And for some reason, those 3 days, I don't know what it was, just nobody was booking. It was like a Monday through Wednesday, you know. But I also love, something I also love, and this is a good thing about competition as well, is I like to read their reviews, because I like to see when people say they're missing something. Only because then I'm like, we got to make sure we have that.
There's a bit of
you know what I mean?
Part of it's like, oh, someone didn't like this because it was dirty. But no, it is good to read like what other people are saying they are expecting. You know? They will say things like, oh, this cabin said it was secluded, but actually there's a house right next door.
There's neighbors,
Or it was really dirty. Or they said it could sleep, 6 in 3 bedrooms, but really there's 1 bedroom, and then there's like 2 pull-out couches that really aren't bedrooms. So you better be really friendly. It's with the people you're staying with.
There is a B&B in town where it's like, it says it sleeps 6 and it's just 1 big room. So it's kind of like I always want to go visit and be like, how is that laid out? I don't know. But so I want to talk about this boutique hotel real quick, because when we go to like business functions or whatever, we were at a party last night, and of course we talk to other cabin owners, and we're kind of like, what do you do? What do you do? You know, like, do you provide linens? Do you clean yourself? You know, we always ask those questions. It's like probably the most boring conversation for anyone who's not a cabin owner. But it's interesting because this hotel, 1 room for 2 people cost as much as a whole house rental in our area. So it's interesting because we kind of pick that apart, and we're like, why would someone stay in that hotel when they could rent an entire house?
Yeah. But, again, they could be helping to push prices up.
Right.
I mean, one reason why they might want to stay in a boutique hotel rather than rent like our whole house is because it's right in town.
Yes.
It's right next door to the huge kind of fancy hotel.
Where there are restaurants.
So if there's like a wedding going on, they're basically staying close to where the action is rather than staying at our place where you're, more not having an event. You're just out there to have it's vacation.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so, I mean, we're definitely like keeping an eye on this business because we're just like so interested in how it will. Like, they don't have any online reviews yet, so I'm like, do
they have a place where people can put that?
They're on Google.
Okay.
But that's the only place I've seen. Okay. So, they have their own private website that they do the bookings through. It's not through, like, hotels.com.
Right, yeah. It's one thing, like we said about transparency, when people run their own websites, often, like, they don't have, like, an online calendar. You have to actually call them to book. And so there's really no way for us to kind of tell other than just
how
when
busy
we drive by
they?
and just see.
We drove by last night and we counted which rooms had lights on.
Right. I mean, we didn't drive by specifically.
No, the party was like next door to it, but it's interesting. It's I think also part of like competition is you are interested in how other people run their businesses,
right?
Because you want to learn from that,
right? And and I think we only bring this up because like when we're on the Airbnb forums, I see people, they're asking all these questions about how do I price this and what do I do about this and that. I mean, that's what we're talking about. I mean, some of it you can ask other people online about it,
right?
But a lot of it you can just find out through the ways which we're talking about,
right?
This information's out there, and you should just look. Like, if we lived in San Diego, I would be keeping an eye on the other Airbnb rentals in San Diego just to see what prices, what people are saying about them,
exactly.
Like, that's how you do it.
And also another part of it is just using feedback that you get directly from your renters is to, improve your business as much as possible. Like on Airbnb, they do have a section where they're like, what can you improve? And I mean, mostly
it's private or,
it's like private comments. So, mostly we just, people are like, oh, I wish there was bug spray. That day Jay went out and bought bug spray and put it right in the, by the door.
Not bug spray for like pests, but.
No, bug spray, like, what do you call it? Like Skin So Soft or Cutter or something.
Cutter,
like, it's just stuff like that. Yep. You're like, there's not bugs crawling around our kitchen. No, there are not. But for this hotel also, like, that's the whole thing. I want that hotel to succeed so much, but I'm also nervous that it'll succeed so well that it'll, like, be competition for us.
Because,
so it's a weird
it's
feeling.
because they have a lot of space, so they can handle a lot of people. So.
Right, and it's pretty fancy for our area, so... Yep. But I think also, like, and we say this about eBay as well, because we talk a lot about, like, how we sell, what we sell on our other podcast on Scavenger Life. And we always get nervous, are we building in competition here? But I feel like there's room enough for everyone, and that's what we always try to tell ourselves, that, like, there's room for other people to be successful.
I mean, in the end, if we're honest about it, if this county can't handle the kind of cabins that are here, then... it's not about the competition anymore. It's just that this place isn't popular enough. You know, I mean, what we should all hope for is that our county is a place that people that want to come to.
Yeah.
And that there's more than enough room for everyone to have a good business
who wants
and
to
rent.
come.
Yeah,
exactly. So the last renters that checked in just the other night, we were kind of waiting for their whole gang to get out of the car, and Jay asked the guy, who's a young guy, probably like 25, hey, what made you pick us on Airbnb? And it was actually really interesting because in my mind, they always pick by price. That's like my first thing is like they picked it because it was a good price for 4 people and a dog. But he said the photos. He said the photos, the description, and then the amount of good reviews. So that was actually kind of surprising to me that he said that. I don't know if it's rude to say he picked it by price, but I thought it was interesting that that's really similar to eBay.
Yeah.
Where you pick something based on good photos, good title, and good description.
Yeah, I don't think it's... I mean, I don't think that that's it's good to hear that people are taking time to find its value in something, because that's how I do it. Like,
Right, me too.
first I'll go by price. Okay, what's
Yeah.
the cheapest? But then I look, okay, based on price, is it better to go for the cheapest, or if I pay a little bit more, I'm going to get a lot more
A
for
nicer
my
place.
money.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, we're more expensive than many cabins, but at the same time,
Yeah.
we aren't that much
That
more
much more,
expensive.
yeah.
And I think when people really look at photos and read what people say and see what we offer, I think people are getting a lot more for their money, and those are the people we attract.
That's who we hope to attract
Right.
as well. Yes. So I was talking to another cabin owner who actually has a cabin on our road, which is funny because we were talking about road maintenance. Totally the most boring party conversation ever. But it was funny because we were just agreeing on a lot of things. He's like, yep, I provide linens. I do my cleaning myself because I don't trust anyone else. And I want to make sure it's clean. I try to provide, soap and, laundry detergent and stuff like that. And it was just funny because it's like, I'm like, yes, right on. Although I don't think he has internet. And for people who, these people were 25 who came, you can't not have internet. Like, they're not going to pick his place over ours.
Yeah,
There's no way.
It's like we said earlier, we live in an interesting place because we come from, there's a history
Yeah.
of people renting cabins.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time, like 35 years or something.
Yeah.
But most of the cabin renters are those original ones. I mean, so they're baby
Yes.
boomers. They're getting into their 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
I mean, many of them. So they're not connected to everything we're talking about. You know,
Right.
they actually there's a company in town that manages.
Yeah, it's a rental agency.
Yeah, they take 20%. They'll even clean the place for you.
Yeah.
And so that's how a lot of these cabins are done, and it's much more old school. So it's kind of good for us because there's a much smaller pool of people like us who are younger, hipper.
Right.
We're using the internet. We understand those amenities that people like us want,
Right.
like you said, internet,
Right.
or,
Like, it seems so basic.
having like an Apple TV, and,
Right, right.
things like that.
Another part about it too, and this guy does not check people in. And I think, like we were saying, a lot of people don't check people in. They use an agency or they just give them the door code because they're away or whatever. And I know we've talked about this before, but I felt like it was super important for these kids, I call them kids.
They were in their 20s.
They were in their 20s, yeah. And, they were super excited to be out on a weekend in the country. They'd never been out here before. And we were like, okay, go here, check these places out. And it was so cute because they messaged us through Airbnb and they were like, we went, there's a place that makes donuts fresh every Saturday. It's like the best thing in town. And they're like, the donuts were so great. And it's so silly. Like, it sounds so simple that's the kind of experience, but that's the kind of experience that someone would have at a little country store and be like, let's go out next weekend, let's go out again. So
I just think it's different ways that, and when we talk about competing with other rental owners, I just think people can run their business in different ways.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people around here that see their cabins more as like kind of passive income.
Yeah, it's passive.
Like, they want someone else to run it for them and clean it and rent it, and they're just like,
give me the money. Yeah.
Give me a check every month,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then hopefully at the end of the year, their expenses are less than what they make. But
Right.
It's just something that they invested in a long time ago.
Right.
They're definitely people like us.
Yeah.
I mean, like that. I mean, we're different than that, where we're active in our rental. Because, number one, it's really important to us, because it's a big part of our income, and we want it to succeed. But also just because we think we provide its value to people. We think people are coming here because they want to have,
an experience.
I mean, it's kind of a cheesy word, but like an authentic experience.
Right, yeah,
like,
exactly.
They don't want to just feel like they're checking into a hotel. They want to feel like they're like staying in someone's house.
Right.
And they get to, ask us questions about where things are and whether you should go. And,
exactly.
And it gives them a story to take home.
Right, exactly.
Like we rented a place from a young couple. I'm really young.
Youngish,
Yeah.
youngish, young looking, young acting.
So it's just a different way to run.
Yeah.
get your business. And like Ryan said earlier, we also, because we're participating in its business each and every time somebody rents.
Right.
We are learning as we go
because
we see what people leave behind, stuff that they had a wish we had there and they bought, so we make sure that's there.
Exactly.
Or they tell us, and we're like always kind of making things better.
Yeah.
Like one thing was, there was a woman and her husband who stayed, and she wrote and said it was great, but the vents of the AC were blowing right on our bed.
Right. They were pointed towards
you should buy these things on Amazon.
They're called air deflectors.
And they just like push the air away from the bed. And it was great. And so they were like $3 each.
Yeah, they cost like $3 each. I ordered them on Amazon, and we were like, because we only stayed there one night, and it was when we were not using the AC or anything. Right. It was one of those like springtime where it wasn't really like, you don't need any of that. And it's funny because we never would have known that if someone hadn't said that. We're like, oh, I never would have known that. And they're great. So it's things like that are really, like, I don't take offense to things like that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's perfect,
little small things.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's it for today.
Yeah, so I did want to mention that we do have a phone number that we use for our other podcast, but I would love it if people did want to ask a question or tell us their experience of how they do rentals. And it's just a voicemail number. And the number is 540-407-8486.
Yeah, we won't pick up. You'll have
3 minutes to leave a message.
To leave a question, and we'd love to hear from you. You can go to shampooandbooze.com, and you can leave a comment or a question. We'd love to just kind of talk to other people. We'd love to hear your thoughts on how you deal with learning from other businesses, and especially competing on price. I mean, that's really ultimately its big one. And are you trying to beat its prices and be the lowest, or are you trying to balance between maybe you're a little higher, but you're offering more?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, bye.